Today I'm going to tell you who I think are the top 10 teams in the world. Now, I will be doing all of the individual regions and kind of, seeing what my predictions were for all of the individual regions as well later on. But for now, let's talk about the top 10 teams globally. But just before we dive into it, first I want to tell you about something that you might be pretty interested in, because this Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, Curry, the ex-pro player and now content creator for Sentinels, is running a session for the Gosu Academy. And in this session, he's going to be breaking down the game that he actually played in versus Fnatic in an off-season event. And he's going to have full access to the Cloud9 comms as well. So whether you want to hear the insights of a pro, like what they were actually thinking during a game versus Fnatic, or whether you want to see what a full C9 team comms is actually like, not just little edited videos, but the full thing, then this is a really, really great chance. Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern. And you can get access to this, by the way, for free as well by just using the link in the description or in the pinned comment. You can sign up for free and basically just get a free lesson of Curry. I think it'll be very interesting, to be honest, to see what that game was actually like from a pro player's perspective. So go and sign up with the link in the description or the pinned comment. And thanks for Gosu Academy for sponsoring the video. Let's dive in then. I think it makes sense actually to come from the top of the list down to number 10, because I think once we start getting lower down, it gets quite interesting. So from the top of the list, I mean, we got all the teams here across the 4 regions. And at number 1, I mean, I really did want to not put Sentinels at number 1 because I just thought it would be funny. But unlike all the Sen fans out there, I am not biased, so I will put them still at number 1 just there. And the same can be said for number 2 as well. I think Gen G are definitely deserving of number 2. I certainly underrated Gen G throughout the entire tournament. I didn't expect them to get to playoffs. I thought then at playoffs they would be the first team out. So Gen G very much proved me wrong, and I think are very deserving of their second place as well. But from here, we're not just going to be looking at who finished third at Masters Madrid, because I'm not going to put Paper Rex in third place, because I didn't think the Paper Rex were playing that well, personally, and they agreed with me. They consistently throughout this tournament were saying that they aren't playing that well, and I think you saw that when they came up against a Sentinels or a Gen G, they didn't look that good, and that I think is a bit of a worry for Paper Rex, and so I won't be putting them in third, and instead, well, I'm gonna maybe surprise people a little bit here. Maybe this is a bit of copium, you might even say. I'm going to put Fnatic in third place. Now, obviously, most of you will probably understand why I'm doing this, right? It's not like a crazy thing that I'm doing by putting Fnatic in third place. But of course, some of you will be saying, well, Fnatic couldn't even make it out of EMEA, so how can they be third place? How can they be above Karmine Core? How can, they be above Paper X when Paper X beat Karmine Core and Karmine Core beat Fnatic, right? Like, all of that. The truth of the matter is, Fnatic lost one game. And yes, they did perhaps overestimate how far ahead they were of everyone else and thought that they didn't really need to try that much or change anything and thought they could pretty much just coast into Masters Madrid. That is true. But they do still have very good players. And they still, I think, would have been pretty good. And the weird thing is, with how it kind of turned out at Masters Madrid, I don't think the Paper X were that impressive. I don't think Loud were that impressive, to be honest. I really do think that Sentinels and Gen G were the only, like, truly impressive teams at Madrid, and I really think that had Fnatic gone, and managed to squeak out a win against Karmine Core, maybe they probably could have coasted to third place. To be honest, I don't think they could have played at that level, and I think they would have been easily beaten by Sentinels and Gen G at that level. But I do think that they still would have probably been better than most of the teams there, to be honest, even at the coasting level they played. So I'm putting Fnatic in third, and what about fourth place? Well, in fourth place, I'm going to, again, not put Paper Rex there, because instead, I'm going to put NRG. Now, here's the thing about NRG. Of course, they lost to Sentinels in their kind of, game to make it to Masters Madrid. And if I'm putting Sen at 1, you could argue that it makes sense that NRG would be up there anyway, because, hey, they lost in a single elim to Sentinels. That's fair, right? But also, I think that NRG, of course, early on, and in the kickoff tournament, I think that it was pretty clear, and we know this for a fact, they haven't had much time to practice together, obviously, with their new players coming from EG. And so, obviously, that I thought that was pretty obvious. You could tell that the individual talent was clearly there, but maybe some of the teamwork and cohesion was somewhat lacking, right? Because they just haven't had a lot of time to practice together, right? So I think that that's perfectly fair. But I think now with a bit more time, they probably have been practicing pretty hard, I would imagine, for a team that hasn't, had a lot of time together. I think that now they should probably be just pretty good. And it would not surprise me if they were very good, maybe even better than the Sentinels, when the league season starts and whatnot. That would not surprise me in the least because they have very good players. Okay, so the third place team in Massive Madrid isn't coming third or fourth, but what about fifth? Can Paper Rex fit into fifth? Well, yes, this is where I will be putting Paper Rex into the fifth position because ultimately, they still did finish third in Massive Madrid, even if the eye test and even from them saying they weren't playing that well. I still think that, when you look at the other teams like Fnatic and NRG, you can just see the names on paper and you can believe that, okay, those teams are very good. But I can't really see an argument for anyone else being above Paper X personally. So I am going to put Paper X into fifth position. Okay, so with Paper X in fifth position, that means that Loud surely are coming into sixth position, right? Just behind Paper X. Well, also no, because I was really not that impressed with Loud at this tournament. And if you look at how Loud made it to playoffs, they beat FPX and EDG, right? They lost to Genji, Paper X, and Sentinels, perhaps like 3 good teams. And they beat 2 teams that I don't think were that good. And they only beat EG to make it to Masters Madrid as well. So I think you can make an argument that Loud might have just got a bit of a lucky draw to get to fourth position, in my opinion. And so I won't be putting Loud in sixth place either. Instead, I'm going to put Army Corps. Because Army Corps, I mean, look, they obviously didn't have a great tournament themselves. They only beat FPX at Masters Madrid. But I do think that you can say that as a team, I think I've seen higher peaks from Army Corps than I have from Loud. And I think I'm just really quite down on Loud, to be honest. For a team that finished fourth in an international event, I am crazily down on Loud, I would say. Because I just don't think that they've looked that good. I don't believe in Loud's kind of comp direction, and I think that Army Corps looked better, to be honest, and I think Army Corps just will be better, essentially, than Loud. And I think if those 2 teams had played at Master Madrid, I would favor Army Corps to win that game. So what about 7th place? Can Loud fit in there? And this is where it starts getting really, really tough when you start looking at these other teams and you start thinking about who you might want to put in the top 10 at this point. I think this is where it gets pretty hard. I think I will be going for Loud at 7th place, though. I think that whilst I do have mega doubts about this team in general, I mean, they still did beat, they still came out of the group of death, right, to start off the kickoff. They did beat Sentinels. They did beat Leviathan, so that's pretty impressive, just to do that off the rip. And then, yeah, sure, they might have had a bit of an easier go of things overall. But I still think you have to give them at least some respect for, getting as far as they did. So I will put them in 7th place. And they were pretty close to beating Sentinels in the upper final as well. Obviously, 2 maps went to overtime. They won 1. They lost 1. Could have gone either way. And so I will put Loud in 7th. And then in 8th position, again, it's getting pretty tough now. The only teams from Masters Madrid that we had were FPX, EDG, and Team Heretics. So do I put Team Heretics in? Well, the weird thing with Team Heretics, of course, is they will be changing their roster, like, slightly, with Miniboo having to do exams. That means the Pastec will still be playing and Woot will be coming in. Obviously, we haven't seen Woot yet, so we don't know how good Woot will be necessarily. But, a lot of people seem to have some belief in Woot and their ability. So it will be interesting for sure to see how it all plays out. I don't know if Rien's can now go to Berlin or not either. I don't know. I honestly have no idea what's going on with Team Heretics. It seems like they're a bit of a team in chaos. But if I'm being fair to the Team Heretics, I do think that, they have shown enough. And if we just take what their 5-man roster will actually be and what we've seen thus far, I do think it's probably fair enough to put them in this list and put them at 8th position. Again, Team Heretics could have easily beaten Sentinels in that first game. The last map, again, very, very close. I think that their inexperience kind of showed somewhat at this tournament. They didn't have an easy draw. They went from Sentinel straight to Paper Rex, right? That's not necessarily an easy draw for any team. And, again, had they got, one of the Chinese teams or something, they probably would win this game. So, yeah, they got a pretty tough draw from the Swiss overall. A bit unlucky, you might say, there for Team Heretics. And again, they will be somewhat in flux, but I still have some faith that they will be a pretty good team. But 9 and 10, though, this is where the debate, I think, really, 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 really begins. Because, whoa, my goodness, who the hell do we put in 9th and 10th? Because I really don't want to put EDG on this list. I really, really don't, but I might be forced to, and I don't know. If we just come and, put at the top here, all the teams I would consider, I would consider EDG. I would even consider 100 Thieves. Right, let's keep them there for now. You know, you could, I mean, if you want, if you're like a legacy fan or whatever, you might put DRX in there. I'm not sure I will, but you know, put them there in the debate at least. For now, you might put a team like Leviathan in there. You know, you might put a team like Navi in there as well. You know, kind of all these teams that you thought like, oh, maybe they could make it. You know, maybe they would be there, something like that. Is there anyone else who I'm looking at? You know, sure, Pacific fans are probably screaming. A lot of people seem to have some weird belief in Team Secret. I don't understand why, but that's fine. RRQ might be the 4th best team in the world, right? They only lost to Genji and Paper Rex, so who knows? Maybe RRQ are the 4th best team in the world. It's possible. It's possible. Out of these, oh, T1, I guess should be in here as well. Are T1 better than DRX? Maybe. Honestly, maybe. That's an interesting call. Out of these teams, though, who do I think should be in there, essentially? And I think looking at these teams, the team that I probably have the most faith in out of all of these teams is probably Na'Vi, I think. Yeah, I would say it's probably Na'Vi, just because obviously, you know, we know that they've got good players. Yes, they lost to Team Heretics, but I actually thought in the games before they played Team Heretics, they actually looked pretty good. Yeah, I still have some faith in Na'Vi, to be honest, so I will put Na'Vi in there. And then, again, an interesting choice between these 5 teams. I really don't want to put EDG in there, but it's kind of an interesting choice of who do you think, you know, would win this. I guess Leviathan did beat 100 Thieves, but I'm gonna be honest. I feel like Lev, you know, a lot of people would be like, oh, Lev are the obvious option here to put in number 10. But I, again, have some doubts about Leviathan. I definitely don't want to put DRX in there, so I might put T1 at 10th. Should I throw a bone to the Pacific fans? I think I might, to be honest. We've got what? We've got 4 EMEA teams on there, not helping the bias. Putting Lev on there would make me seem not so biased, but I kind of let's go anti-Americas. Everyone else is too pro-Americas, so let's go anti-Americas. Which honestly, I think Americas is looking a bit of a mess at the bottom right now. But let's go for T1. Let's send it. Let's send it with T1. That's a tough one. A lot of you will debate. If any of you really feel that strongly about number 10, I would say you're probably wrong. So there you go. Top 10. It's a difficult list to make. I'd be quite interested to see like who would you put at like 8, 9, 10, right? Because again, the top of the list, I feel like, you know, probably the similar sort of teams would probably be coming out. But once you get to the bottom of this list, I think there's a lot of debate to be had. So go and make your case for whatever team you think should be there in the comments down below. And I will see you next time.